Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's J-Man. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm J-Man.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
I saved this one for last tonight because I knew it was just going to piss you off.
Oh, great.
Don't worry, it's not transgenders.
Quit dragging my emotions into this.
The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms is reportedly investigating a video showing a Democratic Virginia congressional candidate sawing an AR-15 in half to exhibit her support for gun control.
I saw that fucking video.
I knew this was
She's a fucking moron.
Trigger alert. Trigger alert.
Gas on the fire.
Yeah, okay.
Karen Mallard, a teacher from the Virginia Beach area, is challenging incumbent Representative Scott Taylor, Republican, Virginia, in the midterm elections. Her campaign posted a video of her outside what appears to be with a circular saw, cutting an AR-15 in half. In the video, Mallard said her husband purchased the AR-15 and that after the Florida school shooting, she asked if she could, quote, get rid of it. She said she grew up with guns in Wise County, Virginia, in the mountains near the Kentucky state line, and that her family kept them for protection and recreation.
Bullshit.
Here's a quote. These gun owners heard you, and we're going to stand by you, to the Parkland kids. Mallard said she later surrendered the destroyed weapon to local police. And here's why I think this is worth talking about in the news. The ATF is now investigating the incident as some critics said the action violates gun modification laws.
It does.
A statement posted on Mallard's campaign website said the video was intended to show her support for the students affected by the Florida school shooting last month. But they took it down because she's receiving a barrage of misogyny, hate, and calls to, quote, lock her up from critics after the video was published.
Okay, one, I think it's absolutely bullshit that she grew up with guns, because people who grew up around guns understand what guns' purposes are for. They're trained in how to handle them. And they understand that the gun isn't the reason why the kids are dead. It's because some asshole got his hands on a gun, and an asshole's going to kill people one way or another, with or without a gun. Two, her husband has no balls. He buys this gun. These things aren't that cheap. And she's like, can I destroy this? And he's like, sure, dear, destroy this gun. And here are my balls. Take those too, because I don't need them anymore because I let you run the house. Then this dumb cunt cuts it. Did you see the video?
Yeah.
Okay, she cuts it. She doesn't... If you're going to destroy a gun and make it non-useful, you cut where the upper receiver is. You don't cut where the barrel is. She essentially shortened the barrel to an illegal length. And even though her intentions wasn't to create an illegal weapon, an illegal modification, she still did it. And last I heard, you don't need, well, and then Hillary Clinton said, well, there was no intent. But you don't need intent. She actually did this, whether it was known or not. Made this weapon illegal with that modification, even though it wasn't, because it would still shoot. You can cut the barrel down all the way down to where the end of the chamber is. The help me out here again.
I don't know guns.
It's the chamber where the round sits before it's fired. You can cut it down all the way where the tip of that bullet is, and it'll still fire. It's not gonna be an accurate worth of shit because there's no rifling, no barrel to guide the round anywhere, but you'll still be able to shoot it. So if you want to destroy a gun, you need to destroy the upper receiver, where the bullet actually is. You don't need to, not even the lower receiver, the upper receiver. That's the part you need.
Here's my rebuttals to that. One, she probably could have cut it in like 4 pieces.
Yeah.
And she'd be safe. 2, shut up, gun nuts that are all like, she destroyed a gun and she modified it and how fucking dare you? And it's her choice because 3, it's a symbolic gesture that she is a politician and an anti-gun constituent wants to put out there like, hey, here's how I feel. She's culling votes. This was an act of attention-seeking. Mm-hmm. And 4, as far as her husband goes, maybe he feels the same way, and maybe he's just like, okay, fuck it. If it's important to you and I know it's going to help get you elected.
Well, if you want to get rid of it, if you're that against guns, be like, well, we had one and we surrendered it or whatever. You don't need to go up there and do I'm going to cut it in half. I don't see how that really proves anything.
I mean, I would be really upset if I saw somebody who, for some reason, was mad at steroids in bodybuilding and decided to go to a gym and take an angle grinder and slice up a bunch of equipment, like a multi-station or a bench press. But I'm not going to go and write a bunch of angry shit about it on the internet or be like, well, you destroyed this and they should look into fucking arresting this person for destruction of property and blah, blah. Shut up. Get over it.
I did not make any comments on the video. I saw some of the comments that people were saying. And like I said, I mean, honestly, like, she didn't do it intentionally. So the ATF investigating, I would say it's a very flimsy case. Like, the most they could say is she did wrong. She did a boo-boo. And then that's about as far as it's going to go. I don't think she's going to face any charges or anything like that, especially if she surrendered it.
Well, who do you think has influenced the ATF's investigation or need to look into this? Can you think of an agency out there that might be interested in pursuing individuals with anti-gun agendas?
From what I understand, the NRA, unless you've read something I haven't, hasn't made any comments on it other than it was stupid.
They're not going to go out and say,
and when is the ATF going to listen to the NRA?
Hey, the NRA is supposed to be a special interest group, but they were supposed to also be nonprofit. But they have shown they have vast political influence. They make huge donations to campaigns.
Nothing compared to what teachers' unions or Planned Parenthood do.
Yeah, I'm fine with what teachers' unions do. They get teachers livable wages. And Planned Parenthood, whatever stops more people from being around, I'm fine with that too.
Well, they just sit there and say that the NRA spends millions and millions of dollars trying to influence politicians. And they, I think, in the last 10 years have spent like $20 million. Whereas the teachers union spends $50 million in 1 year. So if you want to talk about buying politicians and swaying, who's putting out more money?
I feel like that number would not be accurate. $20 million in 10 years.
Well, they're not as big. They're not publicly. Well, no, the teachers unions aren't publicly funded, but they don't have as many members as the teachers union does. And those are all mandated dues.
I don't know. The NRA seems pretty fucking insane with how they just constantly need to jump on every gun issue and be like, hey, politicians, do something about this for gun rights. And aren't you supposed to just be like a special interest club? Can't you just be a gun club over there and shut the fuck up? Let the politicians ruin the politics. We don't need you giving them any harebrained ideas.
Well, just like I say that Planned Parenthood, even though abortion is a personal choice, I don't think it needs to be publicly funded. I don't think they need to be buying politicians, nor do I think teachers unions need to do that.
What percentage of actual duties that Planned Parenthood performs do you think abortion makes up?
The numbers vary depending on which news outlet you look at. So I can't even say for sure. But
it's like one of the smallest things they do, and in this state, there are only 3 Planned Parenthood clinics that perform abortions.
Okay, so the video that I was watching a few months ago where a woman was calling Planned Parenthood trying to get prenatal care and everything. She called like 20 different Planned Parenthoods all in a region, like the Midwestern, and not one of them said that they had prenatal care. All they did was abortions and after checkups and stuff.
Well, that's fish in a barrel there. It was a filmed video of a woman doing that, so she clearly did her research going into it so she could make the most skewed video she possibly could to make it seem like an overabundance of clinics only perform abortions. When I can tell you that I know multiple people that have had abortions, there ain't a lot of places. It's not like you go online and you price shop for abortions.
Yeah.
You have to go to like a number of clinics, and the number is less than 5 around these parts. Very specific. And then you pay out of pocket for a fraction of it too. Abortions regularly cost around $800. So it's not like the taxpayers like paying for you to go and just frivolously murder fetuses. Or
it is funded though by the U.S. government to a point.
I'm fine with that because they also give access to gynecological care and birth control and any other manner of female sexual health shit. I'm fine with that.
See, and this is why when it comes to the whole abortion thing, my stance is it's not for me personally, but if other people want to do it, that's fine. It's their choice. But at the same time, it's like you hear the argument, well, the government funds it. It's like, is it something the government should fund? I mean, if Planned Parenthood really is like anything like the NRA, everything the NRA does is done through donations, whether it be profits or whatever. Whereas
they're funneling money from one hand to the other when they're giving it to campaigns.
Well, you pay to be a member of the club, and then they defend your rights. It's like, I guess you could say Planned Parenthood lobbies politicians so that they can keep getting funding, so that they can keep helping people get abortions or health care or whatever. I mean, I don't know.
Do you think that people would be as insane about Planned Parenthood if they did an equal amount of care for men's sexual health, such as drug testing or selling Viagra or giving vasectomies? If they specialized in vasectomies and stopping more people from being made?
Pretty sure you get some people out there that would be all up in arms about it, but I mean, when
what's
you
the
hear
difference?
that they abort so many babies a year, it's just like, you hear a lot of arguments that we're getting overpopulated on this planet. You know, there's too many people drinking water from the same cup. So it's like, I mean, how bad is it really? You know, I mean, clearly these babies were not wanted to begin with, but, you know, at the same time, you can't help feel a little bad. And then it's just like war. I mean, you hear about all the wars in the past, all these millions of people that died in these wars, both in the armed forces and civilians. It's like, if those people had lived, where would we be right now? Would it be so overpopulated that there's just no fucking way we could survive?
Well, what did Russia lose? Like 20 million people in World War II?
I don't think it was that high.
Oh, it was insane.
In World War II in general, overall, I think it was like 100 million people died total.
It was Russia had the highest losses.
Could have been. I don't honestly don't have the exact numbers on that.
You look at the stats, I was wowed at how far down the list of actual deaths, war deaths, we had. And that includes civilian deaths related to...
Well, we had almost no
all
civilian deaths because we weren't really attacked.
And all
over
the
here that
soldiers we
much.
lost. I mean, to say only a few 100,000.
But it wasn't, yeah, we were,
But it's not
I think, lowest.
It's not like 10, 20 million people.
No, not like England and Germany and Japan and China and all the other places.
Yeah, so think of how the world would be if those 40 million people were still around.
Yeah, so I mean, that's why it's like, it's one thing to be said for abortions and war and all that is we're already getting overpopulated. People know it, but for some reason, people just can't seem to stop fucking.
Fucking's fun. It feels good.
It's fun, but can we do something where, you know, there's prophylactics out there, but that kind of ruins it too.
I don't put a plastic bag over my tongue when I eat pizza or a steak.
Yeah, I'm part of the no plastic bag fan club myself. But.
So people getting this insane about Planned Parenthood, and then people getting this enraged over this lady cutting a gun up. I mean, it's her family's personal property. She's doing it as a statement of support for the kids that had to, you know, live through this shit. But people are, how fucking dare you? Oh, she's modifying a gun. Just gun nuts are attacking this woman. And you said you read the comments. Were they nice or were they not nice?
A lot of them were just like, very nice lady. You took and illegally modified a weapon. Very good job indeed. There weren't a whole lot that I read. I only read I don't even think 10. I think of the 10, 2 of them were nasty. The other ones were just like, the ironic how she unknowingly made illegally modified weapon and stuff like that. That's what the most comments I read. But there was one that's like, this woman is a bitch and she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing and, well, she's just a stupid politician trying to pander to the ill-informed and just like...
I'm nodding yes.
Those are like the ones that... Those are the 2 worst ones. But, again, I didn't read that many comments. I only read like 10.
Well, mob mentality would dictate that one person makes an illegally modified weapon comment and somebody else reads and goes, I like that. Yeah, that makes sense. And then they comment and it just fucking spreads.
And how many read that and didn't comment? Like, I didn't comment anything. I just watched the video and was just like, okay. And I just read the comments. Like, I didn't even really think when she was cutting it. I was just like, no, I'll buy it.
Right.
I didn't think she's like, oh, she's making that illegal. I mean, I wonder how many people watched that video before somebody's just like, that's illegal. I want to say it was probably a couple thousand watched it before somebody commented that's illegal.
Right.
But, I mean, I don't know.
Well, here's the
By the time
thing.
I watched it, there's already 2,000 comments.
Well, here's a related thing, NRA-wise. Florida governor passes the bill where he wants to bump up the purchase age to 21.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read that.
And the NRA is going batshit crazy and now suing to block that law from going into effect. Why would they not want that? Why would you not want the law to be where you have to be 21 to own a gun? You have to be 21 to drink alcohol. You can be 18 to vote. You can be 16 to fucking drive a car. 18 to smoke.
I'd be willing to say, why don't we raise purchasing age, voting age, smoking age, all that shit to 21. I would even go so far as to say
Big Tobacco
enlisting
would
in the
never go
military.
for that.
Well, fuck Big Tobacco.
But yeah, why does the NRA care?
Because everywhere else in the country, and this is just a guess, I don't know. I'm not a member of the NRA. I was for a year. my guess is just like, well, national law and everything is when you become an adult, you can do certain things except rent a car and drink alcohol. So if everyone else in the country can buy a gun at 18, everyone should be allowed to buy a gun at the age of 18. And if you're going to, in certain states, say that you can't, well, then that's a violation of that person's right at the age of 18 to purchase a firearm. Because it's a federal law, 18 or older to purchase a firearm. But even then, that's not any firearm. If I'm not mistaken, it's rifles, bolt action, or lever action, or shotguns. You can't go out and, so that would be semi-auto shotguns too. Any kind of shotgun and bolt action, lever action rifle. I don't know if it would count for semi-auto like AR-15s and stuff. Because I know in AR-15 you have to have a permit to purchase, which is a background check and everything. And then pistol, same thing. You can't, I think in the state of Minnesota, you have to be 21 years of age to purchase a pistol. Which, to get a permit to purchase in Minnesota, I believe the age is 21.
Isn't that nuts that you have to be 25 to rent a car, but at 18, you can go out and get an AR-15?
But this is before I bought a gun, but when I was 19 and I was traveling, it's like, I'm 19. I can fight for my country. I can vote. I can do all this stuff, but I can't rent a car.
Right.
And then when I was 22 and went to Florida, I was like, okay, I'm 22, so I can drink. I can do everything now. And I get to Florida, it's like, oh, you're not 23, you can't rent a car. But for an extra $148, you can. What kind of fucking law is that? That's like blackmail.
It is.
I ended up paying $140 because we needed the fucking car.
Of course you did. Now, I'm fine with what you did because I get why she did it.
And I can understand people would. I think it was foolish, but I don't think she honestly needed to be deserving of an investigation by the ATF because she wasn't doing it in intent.
Well, and then she turns it into cops, and people are like, well, she needs to be investigated. She illegally modified that. I doubt she wasn't doing it so she could have an illegally modified weapon. She was doing it to make a political statement.
Yeah, I see that point. So
she wasn't keeping it for herself because she immediately turned it in to law enforcement. And I'm thinking the ATF investigating this seems really fucking retarded, but I'm sure they're also doing it so that they don't get called out for resting on their laurels.
I think part of it's preferential treatment. Okay, she's obviously a Democrat, liberal, and she's a woman. We're not going to do anything. It's like, okay, you did something that people are saying was illegal. We will investigate it, but we're just going to investigate it like a dog, like a pony show. It's just so that people be like, oh, okay, they're actually looking into it. I mean, again, I think she's dumb for cutting it. She could have just surrendered it, taken a video of her saying, here you go, officer, I'm surrendering this weapon. Take it. I think that would have been the same statement rather than standing in her backyard cutting it.
So what if she had cut it actually in half? Like halfway is the length of the gun.
I would have said, okay, well, she cut it halfway. I mean, I think it was dumb to cut it regardless.
But she's not illegally modifying it because it's rendered unusable.
Yeah, exactly.
So by not going like 6 or 7 more inches down with where she was cutting it, then you get all these jackasses that are like, oh, we're going to get you, bitch. We're going to use a technicality to fuck you with the law. That is why I hate when fanatics want to use legal loopholes or technicalities to fuck over people because they're making political statements that are against your own beliefs. It just seems an abuse of the system.
Mm-hmm. It is.
So anyways, take the time if you haven't seen the video of the broad cutting the gun in half, air quotes, and see if you get as outraged. I don't think you should, because it's her choice. Let her do with her gun what she sees fit, as long as she's not using it to commit a crime. And maybe don't get so incensed over it that you have to fire off a bunch of insults to a woman on the internet about it, where she has to have the video taken down from her campaign's Twitter account, for Christ's sakes.
No. And like I said, she cut the gun where it'd be easiest to cut it. That's all she did.
Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It. That is at What Do We Call It. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm J-Man.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
And that's the end.